evening and welcome to yet another episode of the Rocks and Roots podcast, formerly called R&R, formerly called Rocks and Roots. I am one of your hosts, Tumbles, and through the screen is...
Cranky. Good evening, and I still vehemently protest R&R. This is going to be an ongoing battle.
This will be our divorce one day.
Yep, that's going to be the end of it.
The end of it.
So, this is a very special Christmas episode as we are recording December 23rd, Christmas Eve, and we are bringing you a very special guest, Mr. Neal Lyon. Neal is based out of New Hampshire and has built a wonderful community of hikers in the White Mountains, and he is currently working on the White Mountain Grid. So, good evening, Neal, and I guess you can start with explaining what that grid is.
Well, good evening, my friends. I appreciate you having me. It's a good way to spend my Thursday evening. So basically what the grid is, for those who don't know, a lot of people have probably heard of the New Hampshire 4,000 footers, which is 48 designated peaks between 4,000 feet and 6,288, which would be Mount Washington. And a lot of folks take on that project and as a little personal goal and to conquer for themselves. And it's been done by thousands of people at this point, somewhere around 18,000 or so, give or take a couple. And then there's a few of the crazies, I guess you could say, that kind of take it to the next level. Something called the White Mountain Grid, which is where you will take all 48 4,000 footers and you will make an attempt to complete all of them in every single month of the year, accumulating 576 summits and peaks. Typically, it takes the average person somewhere between 5 and 10 years or longer. I do know a couple people that have done it in a ridiculous time. But that's the gist of it. Basically, it's a year-round project that goes on for years to show you one's dedication to the White Mountains and how much we love it here.
What number are you currently on?
So on Tuesday, I hit number 334.
Wow.
Hopefully tomorrow morning I'll get to 336 or 337, depending. Going to head out and hit Mount Monroe and then hit Mount Washington. And on the way down, we may cross over Clay and hit Jefferson on our way out, depending on how we're feeling. But that's about where I'm at right now.
That's amazing. I am super jealous. A Christmas Eve climb of Mount Washington. That's outstanding.
Yeah, it should be pretty good.
Way off of our outline, but I don't care. I'm assuming you've checked. What's the weather expected to be like on Washington tomorrow?
I've been watching it for the last 36 hours. The ambient temp is supposed to be somewhere in the low to mid-teens, with wind chills getting down between -4 and -8. Partly sunny, partly cloudy, winds between 20 and 30 miles per hour.
That's honestly not bad.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Tumbles, for Mount Washington, that's not bad.
Not bad at all. So I'm just trying to take advantage of that window.
What time are you heading out in the morning?
I'm supposed to meet my friend there at the Monadnock Ravine Trailhead at about 9 o'clock, and we'll probably finish sometime around 4. We like to take our time and catch that golden hour at the end coming down the mountain, you know?
To be local, that's amazing. When we did Washington, we had to leave at 4 in the afternoon the day before and catch a couple of hours of sleep. So I am jealous at your proximity to these amazing mountains.
Yeah. So may I ask real fast, where are you guys from?
North
Jersey.
North Jersey.
Jersey, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Glad to see you can make it up here just the same.
Oh,
yep.
yeah.
Whenever we do the whites, we have to leave. We have to basically make it like its own vacation and leave at least a day before we're doing our summit, and it's a whole thing. So the fact that you can just get up and go I am very jealous.
Yeah, I currently staying a little bit north of Gorham. It'll take me about 45 minutes to get onto 302 and over to the Monadnock Ravine Trailhead. So it's quite the luxury. It wasn't always like this, but it's pretty fantastic. I can't lie.
Absolutely.
is amazing. And that's actually a perfect segue for us to get back on track. You said it wasn't always like this. So can you give us a little bit about your background? What got you into hiking? And then I'm assuming the mountains got you out into New Hampshire. But yeah, what's your story, sir?
Yeah, so well, originally I'm from Connecticut. I lived in a couple corners of the country. I reached how old was I? Like, this was 2018. I kind of got more into being more active, and in September of that year, I kind of figured out there was like Mount Monadnock, which is a really popular place in southern New Hampshire, which was only about an hour and a half from my home. And then shortly after that, I kind of found the Belknaps, which sit on the south side of Lake Winnipesaukee, roughly about 40 minutes to an hour and a half, depending where you're going, in the White Mountains. You can see them from there, and it kind of went from there. I was at a point in my life where I was, this isn't the happy part, but I was in a pretty dark place. I'm a recovered alcoholic. Did a lot of damage to myself. I spent a number of years in a dark place, depressed, and just not doing the right things for myself, my spirit, my soul, or my body, or doing right by my family or my friends for that matter. And then just one day, you just kind of realized that you needed something more, and you kind of had to find that outlet, right? And just started walking. And I was not in the shape that I am now. I was about 235 pounds. At 5'10", that's not too good. And
yeah.
And so I started walking, just going to the track, trying to get some sort of exercise, right? Just something to kind of break that habitual drink, which I, again, this isn't going to sound great, but for a good 5 years, I drank to finish the job about 6.5 days out of the week. One more time, I'm not proud of that, but it is what it is. And sometimes we end up in these situations in our life where we don't really even know how we got there. It's just time passes, and then we're just there, and you just kind of manage it and make the best of it. And some people figure it out, some people don't, unfortunately. And I'm grateful that I was, in at least somewhat of the right mindset where I was able to pull myself out of that hole. So pretty much what I did was I just started walking, and then I was like, well, the track is getting old. And then I was like, well, there's some trails over here, being in northeastern Connecticut. Nothing special, but it was just nicer being out in the woods. And then a friend of mine back home actually lives on a bird sanctuary, the part of the Audubon, and nice little like 2-mile loop they have there, and you kind of finish on this little hill that looks west, kind of overlooking the little valley there, probably maybe 150 feet above the floor there, if you want to call it that. And I was just like, this is kind of cool, that felt good. It exhausted me because I was in complete garbage of shape, but I really liked it. And then I started hitting the trails in the woods more, maybe a couple times a week. And then about 2 or 3 months after that, I had known about Mount Monadnock, which is that small mountain in southern New Hampshire. It sits at about 3,200 feet. It's about 1,700 feet of vertical, and there's numerous ways up it. So I went over there, actually made it to the top, damn near killed me. Again, I was in pretty bad shape. I was still drinking at that time. Like the week after that, I went a little further north to Mount Major, which is one of the more prominent and like popular peaks out of the 12 peaks in the Belknap range on the southern side of Winnipesaukee. And that was pretty cool. And I just kind of thought to myself, being fairly athletic when I was younger and having lost a lot of that, I figured I could be pretty good at it if I just finally just walked away from, the damage that I was doing to myself on the regular. And, that coupled with a couple other significant situations that happened. I had lost someone very close to me, and just kind of opened my eyes. And a few weeks after that, October 8th of 2018, I finally stopped all the nonsense and woke up the next morning, October 9th, and just gave it up finally. And I just started hiking fairly vigorously, 3, 4, 5 times a week. I would drive all the way to the Catskills in New York, or I would come up to the Belknaps, New Hampshire, wherever I could, just start exploring places outside of home, and kind of opening my little world up again, that I had been in, just, wrapped in my own little hole, I guess you could say. And it kind of just expanded from there. So that was October 2018, and then January of 2019, I made my first little trip to the Whites. I hit Mount Willard, which is a nice small little mountain of 1,000 feet of vertical and not very far to go up. Again, not being in the best shape, but a few months removed, things are starting to come back around, especially with being more active and making it a point. I hit South Moat, which is a peak on the Moat range over in just west on the western side of North Conway, New Hampshire, which is a great little, if anybody ever has the chance, the Moat Traverse is a great little 10 mile, 3,000 feet of vertical gain that hits multiple peaks. But anyways, yeah, so I hit that and I hit a couple more spots. And then finally, March 5th of 2019, I was feeling bold and brave enough. I hit my first 4,000 footers in the middle of winter. You probably heard of the Franchonia Ridge Loop. I went up there by myself and probably wasn't quite ready for what I was getting myself into, but I managed and got it done and had, the most amazing experience of my life. I was there by myself, and it just kind of opened my eyes to a lot of things, and that's what started my first round of the 48, which I finished about 10 and a half months later on Mount Isolation in early 2020.
Well done.
Congratulations.
What a story.
Had to have something.
Yeah, I mean, we commend you. I mean, yes, it's a dark place in your life, but you found walking and hiking as your solace, and both Cranky and I could totally understand that when we have dark and bad and sad days, that just one day out in the woods helps us tremendously and just changes our attitudes right around. So well done, kicking the habit. It's definitely not easy, and we're glad you found a hobby that is your life.
Yeah, I mean, it's just once it kind of got a little momentum with it, to be honest with you, it was fairly easy. I think I wanted it pretty bad, but I'll be 100% honest. It's what's really crazy about it is I despite what it took from me. Well, let me correct myself. Despite what I allowed it to take from me, mm-hmm. it's no one's fault. It doesn't fall on anything else or anyone else but me. But had I not gone through that experience, had I not put myself through that, I honestly don't think I'd be at where I am right now with the people I'm around and the place that I'm at. I just don't think I ever would have found it if I hadn't just gone down that path for that amount of time. I wouldn't have the same appreciation for life. I wouldn't have the same outlook. I wouldn't have the same love for myself. The gratitude just wouldn't be there, and I probably wouldn't have found all this. So I can't even imagine where I would have been without it. So in retrospect, I mean, it was hell. It brought a lot of pain into my life, but in the end, it swung back around, and it gave me this amazing, beautiful, just life and experiences that I've been fortunate enough to have the last couple of years. So it was rough, but had it not happened, I probably wouldn't have what I have today. I probably wouldn't have the same outlook. Most definitely wouldn't.
Well said.
Yeah. That's sometimes you need to go into the darkest places to really appreciate the other side, and as a wake-up call. Absolutely. Sometimes when you hit the bottom, that frees you up to do almost anything, and when you come out on the other side, you can appreciate the other side, which will encourage you to embrace it fully, and B, like you said, you have a completely dramatic turnaround, and that's incredible. But you are definitely not alone. We have talked to
Cranky. I was just gonna say. I mean, IB Tat,
IB Cat,
Liz Kidder.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been following IB Tat for a few years, and Liz Kidder is also another local to here, and it's nice to see those kind of things. I often refer. It's funny. I'll joke about this, and I'll get to my friend Ashley later. But I joke about it to her as like the White Mountains. It's like where the broken toys come to play, And we've all found each other, and we've all found so much more here than what we had before. It's kind of amazing.
100%, and just hiking in general. Like you find similar stories on the AT.
Oh, all over. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the woods nature is definitely it's a healing factor.
It's a healing.
Yeah.
It allows people to redeem themselves, you know. I always say it's like people will ask me like, what are you after out here? And it's like the most basic and organic answer I can give them is self-redemption.
That's really good. I like that. So you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but I'm going to throw it out there. Do you think that you've maybe replaced one addiction with a more healthy addiction?
I hate to use that word, you know, but I mean, I guess in essence, yeah, probably, because I don't know. I mean, it's nothing I would ever go back to. It's just, I'm so over it. It's just not even a thing anymore. But like, I mean, you got to have something, right? So every person's got to have that one thing that gives them their charge, you know, and just kind of feeds your soul. And I couldn't imagine, you know, regardless of where this life takes me or where I end up or however long it lasts, you know, I just couldn't imagine like not doing this like regularly. Every single, I'm out there 3 or 4 times a week, typically, with many different people. And I couldn't possibly imagine giving that up. It's just every single time we all say the same thing. This never gets old, and it doesn't. It's the same, even if it's the same mountains, the same trails, the same people. It's just like every single time is its own experience, and it just offers so much, and it just doesn't get old. I can't even imagine. I know people that have been doing this for 30 or 40 years, and they just keep doing the same mountains, the same trails. I mean, there's plenty of different trails, right? But I mean, in essence, it's like it never gets old. So it's a very fulfilling activity. It's just good for your soul. That's all I can say.
I was just gonna say,
the fresh air, the physical activity, the whole nine, right?
Yeah, it fills a space in your soul. I was just gonna say, you almost took the words out of my mouth. So you mentioned your community, which I definitely want to get to in a second, but how many times have you done the 48? Because you mentioned the first time that you did it. So how many times in total have you done the 48?
I don't know how many, except like how many full rounds I've completed. Probably somewhere around 5.
Wow. Oh, that's incredible, dude.
But I mean, like some of them I've done 9 or 10 times just because my numbers are higher on other ones, or I tend to revisit them more. Yeah, a lot of it. Yeah, a lot of it's kind of, you know, a lot of the peaks I do are determined by like what my friends want to do too. I don't make it just about what I need, and that's something that has kind of changed the game for me a little bit, because when I came up here, I actually moved this way. Kind of spent a lot of time camping and just kind of living out of my car for the first 5 months from May till October of last year. I just, for the first like 10 and a half months, I was just like grid. I had to focus on certain peaks, what I needed. And it got to the point where I got burnt out on it, you know? And then I kind of took a step back, had a couple injuries. I busted my ankle back in Memorial Day of this year, which was the end of that like 10-month period or whatever, 11 months. And I just kind of took a step back, right? Like I got burnt out. So I started focusing on more like throwing other stuff in, not just 4Ks, because there's a lot of beautiful trails. There's a lot of beautiful small mountains. Like I mentioned earlier, the Moats, there's Mount Chicora. There's just a whole bunch of amazing trails and spots. You know, you don't want to be ignorant and kind of miss out on those either. So, but all in all, you know, I probably 5 or 6. Roughly. I mean, I haven't counted them. A lot of people keep track of their rounds exactly, and I'm really only focused on one number. And that's the end game, 576.
Well, congratulations. That's incredible. So yeah, let's get into the community that you've established up there.
We've been actually watching your YouTube videos quite a bit, and we're
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I enjoy the title of your page, first of all. That's the first sense of community that I gathered, and then you just post groups of people enjoying nature and fulfilling their peak dreams, which I enjoy very much.
Yeah, I got quite a bit to say on that, and I'll kind of start with, so White Mountain Wanderers is not my it's not my creation. The name itself, getting back to, I mentioned Ashley earlier. That's actually she came up with that and was kind enough to let me use it because it just had such a wonderful ring to it, and it's really just kind of worked well as far as that goes. And as far as getting into the community, I guess I have to start with someone pretty special to me. So when I was doing my original 48 back in 2019, somewhere around that summer, either June or July or August, through social media, and I'll throw out there really quick, social media can be an amazing tool if you use it the right way.
Yeah,
100%.
I had a, who is now someone I consider family. Her name is Megan Pepper. I love this woman dearly. She reached out to me out of nowhere just to kind of befriend me, and I started hiking with her. To that point, everything I'd done was solo. And through her over the last, or at least in the beginning, those first like 6 months or whatever, she started introducing me to other people. And I started seeing how much fun and how rewarding it was to be out there and share that experience with others rather than just going about it in solitude. So first off, ever since that woman has come into my life, it's just a very good friend of mine. It just kind of trickled down from there. And then, moving on, at one point I decided, again, my friend came up with the name White Mountain Wanderers. I made a Facebook group, which is small and private, and unsearchable, in case anybody's wondering, on Facebook. But it was so a little backstory real fast. When I finished my 48, I was still living in Connecticut. I finished on Mount Isolation in Jackson, New Hampshire. That day, I incurred an injury, an inguinal hernia, coincidentally enough. So I finished my 48, but I almost also damaged myself to the point where I needed surgery to fix it, which, if you know anything about those, they are not fun. So that actually, the day I finished also was my last day of hiking for essentially a good 2 or 3 months. That's when we, had all that health stuff going on, which I'm not even going to get into. But it worked out to be, I guess, a good time to take a break. But before I come up to New Hampshire, kind of started the Facebook group, kind of started reaching out to some people. Some people reached out to me. And then when I came up here, it's just all of a sudden I had a small group of people that I was spending my time with, which I really enjoyed. Again, getting back to the person who introduced me to that and then kind of building from there. Ever since then, I've just made it a point to, try to meet more people, try to put myself out there in a positive manner, and make it more about meeting people and using it as a tool to kind of open up my world to people that I wouldn't have ever met otherwise. Where every single friend I have here, we're all from somewhere different. They're from a different town. Most of them are from a different state. We all have a different background. And we've just found each other. I mean, I'm not even exaggerating, probably between 70 and 80 friends that I can just, reach out to at any time at this point. And getting back to the experiences we share out here, they're all very organic. So it really, brings out the best of us, and you kind of see the worst of each other. And it's just a very organic experience. And it just really allows for people to connect. And once I started learning that, and once I started learning how to love myself and then love them, it just kind of taken off from there. So I came here in May of last year. I just started hiking with people, as many people as I could, and I started to slowly find my people, and it's just grown into this very large group of people, my friends, their friends of their friends, and we kind of all share this same little purpose now, which is kind of amazing, to be honest with you. It's kind of grown into something and continues to grow into something that I never really thought was a thing. And it just seems to be working. And the community that we have here is pretty special. The support and the love that we give each other and that respect, and you just don't find it in many, facets in life. And it's kind of refreshing because, that's what it's really all about.
No, we absolutely agree with you. I mean, we giggle at the term tramily, your trail family. But what we found ever since we started doing this podcast, shockingly a year ago at this point, is that every person that we talk to, I feel like I've known you guys, all of our guests, for a long time, because we have that common bond of the outdoors and hiking, and we understand the pain cave, and we understand the excitement and the happiness of being outdoors. So I 100% agree with you on that, Neal, that your trail family is almost like your blood family.
Yeah, they become your best friends. Like it's unbelievable, you know. Like my friend Stacy, she's from like a completely different world to me, you know. Like I just love her dearly, and she's one of my closest. And I'm only using her as an example because we were having a discussion the other day, you know. Just all the way down the line, it's unbelievable. They become your closest friends, like your confidants, things you share like everything with, you know, because you just spend so much time out there, and there's so much discussion, and so much to learn, and it just all falls back to this incredible appreciation for one another. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced, and I've been around. You know,
yeah.
It's quite remarkable, you know, and so yeah,
is that how you met
thoughts
Tina?
on the community?
Is that how you?
Yes,
yeah. Tina,
yep.
Yeah.
So Tina was kind of Tina Merritt. She's a wonderful woman. She's kind of it was kind of random. So you guys know I have the YouTube. So somewhere around like 3 or 4 months into I started that, I have this good friend, Sherry. I call her Sparkplug. If you knew her, that would just fit. We were hiking. We were doing, it was last January. It was January 30th. It was the last weekend in January. We were doing Mount Adams and Mount Madison in Northern Presidential. So we had done Adams. We went over to Madison. We were coming down. And Sherry has a very distinct laugh. She's a wonderful, wonderful human. If you can't see the joy when you're around her, there's something wrong with you. You know, very vibrant, very distinct laugh. And we're walking down, and I had never met Tina. And all of a sudden, someone down below us just yells out, "I know that laugh. That's fucking Sparkplug." And I was like, "What, dude?" You know, and then this woman comes out behind the trees about 50 feet down the trail below us, and it was Tina. And, you know, the next thing you know, it's just big hugs all around, and you know, and that's how I met Tina. And
that's amazing.
She's been nothing but I don't know her really well, but we've interacted enough. She's nothing but a ball of joy. I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah, for those that are wondering, Tina was actually our second guest, and Tina was the one that directed us to Neal. So Tina, if you're listening, thank you so much, and we can't wait to meet you in person too.
Yeah, love you, Tina.
So I do want to touch on a couple things that you mentioned. And yes, big shout out to Tina. Thank you so much. So I really liked what you said about seeing the worst of each other. That's something that's not often focused on in a lot of hiking vlogs or a lot of discussions, because it's more fun and it's easier to focus on the photo or the video that you take at the top of the summit. Look how amazing this is. Look how awesome we are. But you really do, and that's obviously seeing the best in people that you're with, sharing these experiences. But the other side of that is you see the worst in each other. And I like that you mentioned that. You see, you know, it's been raining all day and you are climbing up a trail that you didn't expect to be in, you know, as horrible shape as it is, and you're mad and it goes silent. And that's part of building a bond as well, sharing those experiences as well. Or you fuck up a map read and you're adding like an extra 2 miles, and you know you're pissed off at each other, and dealing with that and getting through that is also part of building a relationship.
Yeah, it's again getting back to like just keeping it organic and raw and real, you know, and not painting this picture that everything's, you know, honky fucking dory and look at me smiling in this picture. There's a lot more, you know, especially hiking in the whites. A lot of people don't realize how rugged this terrain is. I mean, it gets knocked a lot, especially by people on the West Coast that have these nice like old horse trails and stuff. And I'm not knocking any of that, but like we, you know, it's not as easy as people think, even though the mountains aren't as big and the conditions can change awfully quickly. And it's just, sometimes it's just hard, you know, especially like shoulder seasons, you know, like the last 8 weeks we've had ice, and without the snow quite yet because it's just held off longer. And then you get to the spring, and the spring is not easy. It is horrible. You got rotting snow, you're falling through. It's just a really tough situation. And then there's everything else in between, right? And, you see people struggling, but you have people next to you that are going to, they're going to talk you through it. They're going to keep your head where it needs to be, and just you kind of have that, right? And then plus everything else that we just share out there that, life's not perfect and it's not all unicorns and rainbows. And it's funny because even one of the things I like to say is, like, particularly there's probably about 15 of us that are really close. Like, that's like my close circle. And it's like, even when we're hating each other, like, we still love one another. Like, it's not always perfect, you don't always see eye to eye, and then the closer you get to people off the trail, it's just, again, we're all from a different place. We all have different backgrounds. We all think and deal with things differently. But in the end, it's just, you see the ugly, but what comes out is the beauty and the love. And that's really what's important, but it's good to see that side of people and to know that everything's not perfect, and to know that they struggle at times, and to see each other struggle at times. It's just, it kind of helps build a stronger bond.
Yes, and using that to build that stronger bond rather than having that bond. I like that. So how do people? So you mentioned you have between 70 and 80 people, and you kind of, you shared how you connected with some of them, but generally, like, how do you connect with people? Is it through the YouTube or through the Instagram? How does that work?
Well, I mean, again, getting back to the one person I met a while back, and that's introduced me to people, and it kind of trickled down from there. So a lot of it happens with, like, we meet people on trail. My buddy Eric likes to talk to everybody and their mother, and he'll just invite everyone along. So a lot of people that we meet are like through methods like that. But, like, social media does quite a bit, just because we constantly share so much, and people reach out, and we reach out to other people, and it just kind of trickles down from there. YouTube is kind of a different animal, but, as silly as it sounds, is Instagram's and Facebook have brought a lot of us together, because we constantly share. We all probably share a little bit too much, but people see that and they reach out, and then you see what they share, and you kind of just know who you can, like, invite along, and who might be on your level, and who might be able to be good to hike with, and it just kind of grows from there. This is kind of silly, but getting back to my friend Stacy, she was a solo hiker. She didn't hike with anybody, and she was out hiking one day, and she came across another group of friends of mine, and she shares the story with me. Is like, all right, how am I going to get past these people without engaging? Without engaging, and she was just trying to keep her head down. Well, she walked by my buddy Eric, who again is the social butterfly, and he will just talk to anybody, and he pretty much makes you engage. And if it wasn't for him, like, engaging with her that one time that I wasn't there, and so many others of us wasn't there, like, she would have never came into our life. And now, I mean, her and many others, but now, for example, she is like again, essentially family at this point. And if it wasn't for that one little chance encounter, we would have never have met her. And, a year later now, like, she's just one of us, and, we're one of hers. And it's random things. And sometimes I have certain friends that it was just through small discussion on Instagram. My friend Ashley is just somebody I followed her. She followed me. I had a little discussion at one point here and there. I ended up hiking with her. And because of her, I now have the job that I have, and, work where I work. And I'm pretty well off because of that random encounter with her that I just, little discussion that happened a little while back, it happens in so many different ways, and it comes at you from so many different angles. And a lot of people, they go out and they like to close themselves off to people, and that's cool. They do what they need for them, but a lot of us open ourselves up to others, and it's how we've all come together in that sort of fashion, which is essentially all different ways.
I really like that. I was going to ask if you all hang out off trail as well.
Oh yeah. There's a number of us that will be spending Christmas evening together.
Oh, lovely.
again, we're all from different places. Some of us don't have family around here. Some of us need space from our family. Some of us,
I hear that,
don't have any. I mean, some of us, all we have is each other. It's just pretty remarkable. Special. It's what it is.
It's the same thing between Cranky and Mrs. Cranky and myself, but we kind of did the opposite. We met off trail, and about 4.5 years ago, we kind of decided, hey, let's see what it's like to be trail buddies together. And it's worked out so remarkably that we're at the same pace. Our conversations flow very easily, and with that comes easier times on trail. So we do understand the beauty of that sort of community. However, it seems like you and your friends are a lot more outgoing in terms of Cranky and I. We're kind of those people who are like, all right, we have our little cocoon, and trying to get someone into our trail mojo is hard, especially if they don't jive. The conversation doesn't work well. Oh my gosh, we have a 7-mile hike ahead of us. What are we going to do with this person?
Yep.
That's remarkable to hear that you have so many people that are on your level.
It's pretty cool. Again, the core group of us will pretty much give anybody a chance, and then we kind of, again, through following people and stuff, you kind of know their abilities and everything. You don't want to put first and foremost, you don't want to put yourself in a bad situation with somebody that's not on your level, and that's not to take anything away from anyone, especially during the winter and stuff. You have to be careful.
Correct.
So, we're pretty open. We pretty much give anybody a chance, and again, we obviously can see the result of what happens when you do that. You don't close yourself off to people.
I totally agree. Not knocking anyone, but especially in the whites, your life literally could be in your hiking partner's hands. So it's
absolutely
important to find someone who knows what they're doing, and the social component is extremely important, but the technical component and them knowing what they're doing is also very, very crucial.
Absolutely.
One of the other things that we noticed is you seem to be introducing a lot of young people to the mountains in these trails, which is definitely a good thing so that they can be preserved well into the future. So are these, children of your friends, or how do you, meet up with and introduce younger people to these trails?
So I imagine you're probably referring to some of the younger kids, the little kids that have appeared here and there. So there's a few. So let's start with a little story from this woman Kim and her husband, her granddaughter. She's actually not too much older than me, but her granddaughter Scarlett, she started doing the 48 with her. She has completed the 48 at 4 years old.
That's incredible.
and there's a video on that we did, which that was the first. I had met Kim previously, but very briefly in passing. I kind of reached out to them because I was following them, and reached out to them to see if they'd want me to follow along and do a video of their day, and they were gracious and very kind enough to allow me to attend and experience that with them. But that was Labor Day weekend of this year. The little girl finished on Mount Tecumseh, which was pretty crazy because the night after, some Boston news outlet had gotten word of it and posted a picture, and then Jimmy Fallon on his late night show actually gave her a little shout because he's, they see it through the Associated Press. So that was pretty wild.
Huh. Wow, that's amazing.
But that same day, Scarlett's little 3-year-old sister, this little girl's 3 years old, right? She made it all the way up and down herself too. And then that same day, my good friend Brittany, her 5-year-old daughter Faith, who started doing the 48 with her back in March, and they just finished recently the first weekend in November on Mount Madison.
Wow.
It's pretty nice to see these people doing this for these young children. And I'm just going to be kind of blunt about my what I said about it. I made a comment to Kim's friend when we were doing Tecumseh that day with Littlefoot, Scarlett there, when she was finishing. I said, it's really nice to see this, to see these people getting these little kids out here before the rest of the world can get to them and fuck them up, and it's just really refreshing, and frankly quite remarkable to see like small children doing this, because again, these mountains are not easy.
No,
to have
not
a
at
4
all.
or a 5-year-old that can hike Mount Adams is, Washington, everyone kind of like, like, honestly, you go up the right way, and Mount Washington is fairly easy, as long as you can put in the miles. But like, hitting Mount Adams is a beast. 5-year-old kid. So little Scarlett did it as an overnight. Well, Faith, Brittany's daughter, she did 20 miles in a single day. A 5-year-old kid did a 20-mile Zealand to Bonds traverse in a single day. That is remarkable.
Yeah, very resilient kid.
It's, how many 4 or 5-year-olds that would do that, and let alone that, how many parents would even put their children in a position these days to even attempt that? It starts with the parents, and I just feel like I'm fortunate enough to know some of these people too, because they're just doing amazing things for their children and their development and just everything that they're going to do. And then I have another friend. When her daughter was somewhere around 4 months old, the beginning of last year, she started taking her on the 48, doing the 48. And she has carried that baby on her chest for the last year and a half through all 48 4,000 footers 4 times over in every season of the year. Just this past weekend, they finished their 4-season 48 4,000 footers with a sandwich range traverse of 18 miles in some really shitty conditions. Now, this child is not small. She is carrying a 30-pound baby now on her chest. Like, just to see, and I've been out there with them, and that baby never cries. She's always smiling, laughing. She loves listening to Bob Marley and eating her goldfish and Cheerios. Like, it's absolutely incredible. And the experiences that they're having right now and that these parents are giving to them are going to affect them in such positive ways that, most children don't get, because a lot of parents aren't willing or think that they should even be in that situation. Well, I think that's crap, because I've seen it for myself, and the joy that they get from it is just, it's incredible.
I know that Cranky and I, when we're out on trail, we do enjoy seeing kids on trail as well. We see their happiness out there. And we always say, good for the parents for getting the kids out there. But then on the same token, sometimes we see kids that are really not digging the trail, and we can definitely see it on their faces. But I'm glad you've experienced the former so much, in the whites especially.
Yeah, I've seen it on both sides, right? I guess I'm just fortunate enough to know the right people that know how to handle those situations, and kind of have the patience to deal with it. And again, it's a case-by-case basis, I suppose, but I've been lucky to see and know some of these people, and it's that in itself is pretty amazing, pretty inspiring, right? So good on them, good on the mamas, good on the papas, and just an extreme benefit in the long run for the children.
Yeah, as Tumble said, we've seen lots of dads bringing their kids up because they want to get their kids outside, and the kids are just not digging it. They would rather be on the Nintendo Switch or anywhere else, and that's kind of, it's, on the one hand, it's amusing to see, like dad is usually happy, and why, and these kids are just like, their heads are down. It's like they're on the Bataan death march. So if you're brought up in it from the time that you're 4 months old, you're definitely going to be acclimated to it. But you do mention a good point. I'm sure there are lots of people out there that would say, 4 months is young. 4 and 5-year-olds, it could be dangerous. What do you guys do to maintain a safety factor?
I don't really, like, I can't really speak on their part. Like, other than that, their own preparation and believing in their own ability. I don't really do anything myself. We all go out there with, what we feel is the proper gear for us and what we're comfortable with. But, you know, a lot of times I think it starts with just not going out there alone. You know, it's hard to say, but everybody has different comfort levels, right? Like experience and difficulty is relative. It's not, you know, it's kind of tough to speak on because, again, getting back to some folks, they might have a hard time with their child on a 2-mile hike that only goes 1,000 feet of vertical, right? Like it just might be tough for them to manage. The kids might not be into it. I don't know. Like, I guess it starts with going from there. Again, getting back to my friend Whitney, just the weekend before she did the 17-mile Sandwich Range Traverse, she did 31 miles to the Pemi Wilderness with 10 to like 12,000 feet of vertical gain with just her and her baby, you know, in the middle of December. But she's built up to that. Like she's, you know, this is after almost 2 years of her kind of learning and understanding her comfort levels, learning and understanding what her baby's comfortable with and her child. And, you know, I don't know. So that's a tough question for me to answer. If you ever wanted a really amazing guest, she would be one to have because she could definitely, you know, share some things with you and a lot more insight on that I cannot really speak on.
No, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, that would be an interesting conversation. I was wondering, because we are amazingly coming up on an hour almost already. Yeah. So I wanted to pick your brain about a couple of more things.
Sure.
What?
No rush.
Excellent.
Fantastic. What have been, since you have extensively explored the Whites, what has been your favorite summit and maybe your least favorite?
Yeah, so that's another one's kind of hard to answer. I can tell you a few points of the places that I really enjoy and that I feel like I get a lot about every time out there. Let's see, in no particular order. As most people would say, the Bonds are a pretty special place, especially if you traverse it from north to south. Some people go the other way. I prefer to go this way, where you start at Zealand Trailhead, up off Route 302. And you traverse 19 and a half miles south, hitting, you know, takes you out to the Zealand Hut and then up to Zealand Cliffs and then over Zealand out to Gio. And if you've ever hit Mount Gio, you know when you walk up over the top and you walk out through those trees and you get to see the Pemi Wilderness expansive, you know, the expansive Pemi Wilderness right in front of you. It's kind of like another world. And then from there, you take it over to West Bond and then to Bond and then finish on Bond Cliffs before you've got about 9.5 miles before you have to head out. That hike to me is pretty amazing. I'm a big fan of the Northern Presidentials. That's just a completely different animal.
That includes what specific mountains?
So you know, some people will include like Washington in that, but I'm specifically talking about Mount Jefferson, Mount Adams, Mount Madison.
We love Madison.
We love Madison so much.
Those three mountains that kind of run along Route 2 through Randolph and into Gorham, pretty special place. A lot of people like the Franconia Ridge, and that's real nice. I think it's a little overplayed and a little too populated at times. That's why one reason I like to go later in the day. This is tough. Like you start to think, and you start to draw blanks, right? Like there's so many spots, but I would say for me, probably that Bonds Traverse and the Northern Presidentials are two of my favorites. There's a lot of little places out there in those woods that aren't on the summits that are pretty amazing, and I can't really even think of them at the moment, but people should definitely explore those too because there's a lot of gems out there.
I guess
it really is.
My other question, this is kind of, I don't know if this was on Craigie's radar, but I have seen in White Mountain videos about the fun little birds that are called Canada jays. Some call it whiskey jacks or gray jays that eat out of
Gray jays
eat out of your hand. Have you had that experience? Because I would love to have that experience.
Oh yeah. We always feed them like nuts and crackers or whatever. You know, I don't know. Try not to feed them any garbage, but they'll literally eat anything. You know. But they are not shy. You gotta be careful because if you feed them once, they might follow you all the way along the ridge. We had a good 4 or 5 of them follow us all the way from the summit of Kerrigan all the way down into the woods off Signal Ridge, and they wouldn't stop. And then, they are not shy. They will literally come and fly right on your hands. and which for a lot of people it's a pretty magical moment because you don't experience anything like that. And I kind of try to look back at the first time I did that. I don't typically feed them too much. It's not my thing, but a lot of my friends love to do it, and I like to get pictures of them and some footage of them doing that, and they really get a lot of joy out of it. But for a lot of people, it's just a really magical moment where they get to interact with nature in that kind of environment, and they get a lot out of that. And again, the birds don't mind. They're they're going to take your food and go stow it away so they can eat through the winter and stuff or whatever they do. But
Cranky, that's on our list.
They're
we
fun
have to
little
go.
creatures.
Okay. I was going to ask, is there a particular season? Are they a seasonal bird? Are they there year round? Like, what is the best time to encounter them?
I'd have to say they're year round.
Okay.
And I think maybe in the winter they're a little more active because you rely on the food from the people a little bit more. I mean, I don't really know a lot about them, so I can't really say. I don't think they migrate. I know they mate for life, unless one passes, I believe. I learned that this past week. But I think they just kind of stay where they are. And they, I don't know. I would have to say, I feel like maybe you see them more in winter, but maybe that's just because there's not as many people out and maybe their food source isn't quite as abundant. But they're pretty much there year round.
And I saw one for the first time when I was out in Snoqualmie wilderness out in Washington, and these are with the cutest little bird. Well, they're big birds, but the cutest birds I've seen. Like, they have the face of a chickadee, but they have a body like a blue jay, and they're mainly they come from Canada. They mainly hang out on the Canadian-U.S. border. So, very cool. Well, thank you, Neal. We will be on the lookout. And, friends, that was your ornithology lesson of the hour. So, well done.
I will be sure to bring maybe some overnight gear, some extra stuff, because if we encounter them, I'm not getting off that mountain ever. Because it's hours and hours of ornithology fun with my hiking partner.
So some speaking of jays, you all know the blue jays, right? They're kind of a solitude creature, I believe. A couple months ago when we were on a kind of foliage time, we were up on Wildcat A when we were doing a traverse over the ridge and looking down into Carter Notch above the hut down there and across the Carter Dome. And there was probably 25 blue jays that were migrating south, flying together, that flew through the notch at that very moment, which was probably one of the coolest things that I've ever seen. Blue jays, not gray jays. And again, I'm pretty sure they're more solitude creatures, and I guess, they would fly together to, safety in numbers as they migrated south. But that was something I had never seen before, so that was pretty amazing. That's
like a once-in-a-lifetime sighting. That's really cool.
Right moment, right time. And there was like 5 or 6 of us, and there was like probably a good couple dozen of them. It was pretty wild.
Oh, so cool.
So we, I don't know if you've been listening to our previous episodes, we have kind of taken on and are blatantly ripping off Kyle O'Grady's Trail Tales.
Yeah.
We loved that podcast, and he really hasn't done it since August. So we are kind of doing it instead. So we always like to kind of wrap up as our final question with a trail tale. Do you have an experience that you want to share? It could be something silly. It could be something kind of scary. Anything that you want to share as a trail tale to kind of wrap this up?
I mean, I guess it's tough to kind of think of one particular thing at the moment, but me and my friend Stacy there, we've had this little thing kind of ongoing lately with the shoulder season, and we have this thing where we don't like to wear spikes for as long as we can, and it kind of got into this little competition, like who falls the most, right? And so we kind of keep, when we were out hiking together, we kind of keep score, and we've got this little rivalry going, and I'm kind of kicking her ass right now. Sorry, Stace. So, and we both eat shit quite a bit, and we laugh at each other and everything, assuming everyone's all right. But so we have this little rivalry going where we keep score, and then we have like a series going, and we share that on one of our social media platforms, right? And it seems to be really kind of catching on with other people. So we go on a hike, and then we go out there, and we go on there, and we share like the nonsense and the crashes and the booms and in detail, and kind of get into it, and it's kind of caught on to this thing where now everyone else is kind of sharing it, and like just kind of sharing all their funny stories and videos and everything. And a lot of people seem to be getting a big kick out of that. So that's kind of something a little silly that we like to do, and it seems to be quite enjoyed by many. And me and her, we certainly get a lot of laughs out of it, and report back to each other and everything. So, on the lighter side, that's probably something I got to share for you.
I like it, and we can identify with this. We have a trophy that we pass back and forth on every hike, and the trophy goes to... It's not a literal trophy.
It's a magnet.
It's a magnet that we stole from an amusement park. It's a this row closed magnet from COVID at an amusement park that we stole. But we pass that back and forth to whoever eats shit the most on our hikes. So definitely, I think that's a very, very common and hilarious thing in the hiking community. So
I mean, we also have the Call of the Wild challenge. I mean, this is stuff to like keep the time going, even though we're enjoying nature. We have these these challenges, and the other challenge is called the Call of the Wild, or lately we've been calling it the Call Off the Wild. It's who can belch the loudest and scare the wildlife away. So that's a little bit of what we do to keep ourselves amused.
Yeah. Anytime we can get pictures and video of each other and stuff like that, just try to embarrass each other afterwards and stuff. So I completely understand. It's pretty much just to pass the time and entertain ourselves, right? Like,
absolutely.
But
do that quick split-second assessment. Is anything broken? Is everyone okay? Yes. All right. Now it's time to laugh, point, and take pictures.
Oh yeah. That's what we do, man. As long as nobody's like bleeding or broken legs or anything, you'll be
live.
fine.
Yeah.
You're gonna make light of it and have fun at your expense. It's just that's how we all show our love for one another. It's pretty funny.
Well, Neal, it's been an hour. It's shocking. Always when we have people on, it goes so quick because the conversation is just so wonderful. Would you mind sharing all of your socials to the world, please? And I, of course, will put it on our show notes as well.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. So first and foremost, I have a YouTube channel. It's called White Mountain Wanderers. I started about 13 or 14 months ago. Its original purpose was to simply document and create a visual for my parents to follow along what I was doing out here. It's kind of grown into more of that. And, it's become more about the community and the people and just all of our experiences. We've got 48 finishers. We've got White Mountain Grid finishes. We've got birthday hikes. We've got engagement hikes. And I've been fortunate enough to be a part of all these. And it's just there to kind of document our experiences. It's there to document my grid, which nobody has done yet. And it's just something I started, and it's really kind of grown into something, and it's really gaining a little bit of momentum finally. And I'd appreciate anybody who could go on there and, take a gander. And maybe if you have an account, just subscribe so I can get that number up to where I need it to be to take it to the next level. As far as my Instagram, it's Neal's Simple Life, NEALS_simple_life. We also have a White Mountain Wanderers Instagram page where I like to feature my people, just random pictures here and there of them out doing their thing and kind of celebrating the community like we try to do. And yeah, that's about that. And I'm just gonna keep kind of working on all that and keep the momentum going, keep building on something good.
Well, excellent. Yeah,
absolutely fantastic. We have a bunch of other topics that we didn't get to. I say this with every guest.
Yes.
But I want to ask about if you're going to come back on in a couple months, gear, and then the difference between different seasons in the whites, some of the more technical stuff. We really wanted to focus on your community for this episode. Yeah. But thank you once again, Neal. It has been a pleasure.
The pleasure has been mine. I appreciate you guys and everything you're doing. So thank you very much for having me, and everybody who listens to you guys and everybody who follows myself. Thank you very, very much.
You've been great, Neal. Thank you. And as per standard, folks, I'm mentioning Apple Podcasts first because, as I've said, that seems to be forgotten by me, mostly. If you're listening to this, you are most likely on Apple Podcasts. Please leave us a note to say hi. Please leave us also a 5-star rating if you'd like. We hope you do. Then love us and like us on the gram. Cranky is the head of the gram page, so thank you, Crank. We are rocks_and_roots_pod. Crank also does the TikToks, is rocks_roots_podcasts. And I believe we're done, so Merry Christmas if you celebrate, and Happy New Year. Ciao.